Well, networking, I think, is the key to business development and business growth. It brings you into contact with other people, not just people who might buy what you're producing or the service that you're selling, but quite often people who've been down a similar road before. Networks are a good source of advice and support, especially during the very early stages of a business's growth.
Networking is now, I think, recognised as something really important. I might use a different word or use a different phrase, perhaps. I think you learn every time you have a conversation with somebody professionally.
My advice would be, take your business cards along, grab that opportunity, talk to people about your business, and think outside the box. The business you've been developing might well have a market you haven't quite thought about in a slightly different sector.
One of the things about the National Business Awards is that big firms compete with small firms on relatively level playing field. And big firms like learning from small firms, and small firms like learning from big firms. So I think it's a terrific way to progress for a small business or for a large business. I think my advice for entrepreneurs would generally be make sure you really, really know what your customers want, because it's incredibly important to be able to have a goal and follow what you want to do, but you'll have to know that along the way things are going to change.
There's plenty of advice available. There's advice locally. We have the government website. There are various support schemes. But take advice above all from somebody else who's been in business. We have a mentoring scheme, by the way, that's free for people who want to start off a business, and get a business plan together and then start seeing what other sources of help you're going to need. For example, how it's going to be financed.
I think it's going to be critical over the next 12 and longer months to make sure that most firms have the digital skills that they need, because transformations are happening through most sectors in industry, and making sure that you have those skills on board in that fight for talent is really important.
Well, I'd go for it. I don't think there's ever been a better time, actually, now. There's more help available than ever before for setting up a business in this country and for growing a business in this country. And I don't think, the climate's never been so good. You've got record low interest rates, lots of government help, an economy that's now recovering. There are signs of recovery in Europe as well. I really don't think there's ever been a better time to set up a business. And my advice would be to, ignore the politics. Forget about ministers telling you what to do, actually, but just to go for it. Well, the key is to start at home, to show that you can successfully sell your product or your service in the British market, but to have an eye out for the opportunities abroad. And there's a lot of help, specifically from UK Trade and Investment, to help you in any overseas market that you can focus on. And quite a number of very small British companies start off by putting a toehold into the European markets, going to trade fairs and exhibiting, and finding out that actually it's quite easy to operate across Europe. It's obviously gets more complicated the further away you go.
In the Business Without Barriers report, you see, I think, something like 80% of firms saying that international sales are going to be key to their growth. And I suspect that represents Britain today. It's one for export.